It's go time!
Whether you're familiar with the simple joys of a point-and-click adventure, or it's your first foray into this lost art, Old Skies promises an experience that's both nostalgic and refreshing. This is a game woven with mystery, laced with charming characters, and flourished with a clever sense of humor. Does it fulfill its nostalgic promise? If you're into time-traveling escapades and old-school gameplay, it might just.
I think I'm getting used to it. Huh. So it's night now.
It might be easier to think it's night then, which you're just experiencing as now.
But first, save your future self from doing it and head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where you'll gain Discord access to the greatest indie gaming community, enjoy early ad-free shows, receive our new podcast 3 days early, get a shout out at the end of every video we produce, and more. Best of all, you'll be supporting indie visibility. Your new indie gaming community is waiting for you. Old Skies is a point-and-click adventure game designed with unabashed nostalgia for simpler times. Players take the role of Fear, a field agent for a time-traveling company somewhere in the far future. Via multiple chapters, players are dragged across time on seemingly separate adventures, bouncing back and forth between a brilliant variety of locales. Despite its clearly rose-tinted glasses, Old Skies remains a decidedly modern experience. Most notable is its carefully crafted stories and truly human characters. That said, Old Skies tries its best to provide ample gameplay along the way, mostly sticking to classic puzzles while injecting brief innovations. As with the titles it's inspired by, Old Skies is an adventure game that's all about pointing at things and clicking them. Sometimes you'll need to click things in a specific order, or have a particular item before you're able to click things in the right way, but click things you will. In keeping with its narrative-driven structure, Old Skies also allows for a variety of dialogue options, and although they can often be exhausted, it does allow for a little agency. I must admit though, I often felt obligated to exhaust all options for fear of missing a potential solution to any given puzzle. It would have been nice to see dialogue options contract when a solution is no longer available, which it does sometimes, but Old Skies usually makes it worth investigating via humorous dialogue and, as we'll get to later, some talented voice work. The real trick up Old Skies' sleeve, however, is tied directly to its narrative. That's right, it's time to talk time travel. You see, Old Skies is not afraid to kill the player. However, through the power of time travel, it allows them to repeat scenarios until death can be avoided. Unfortunately, Old Skies holds this mechanic back at first, but it's a fun surprise when it does show up. I should also mention that if you're prone to clicking things on autopilot like me, then you might find these sequences a little frustrating. I may or may not have gotten Fear killed with a cleaver more times than I'd like to admit, but they do a great job of making you feel clever, even if the solution is often simpler than you'd think. This simplicity can be a little disappointing though. A few of the earlier solutions are a little too quick to come by. I will say though, Old Skies did surprise me on more than one occasion. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll just say that it's important to pay attention to even the background flavor. Anything can be important, it seems, and when you make that connection, it can be tremendously satisfying. On the other hand, sometimes a solution is as simple as picking up an object and putting it somewhere else, not exactly mind-boggling. There's naturally some misdirection at play to obscure certain solutions, but I have to say that in some cases this can be frustrating. One instance in Chapter 2, for example, had me thinking I'd yet to find the solution, when in fact, I'd already solved the puzzle. Just know that it's important to test solutions even if they don't appear correct. Then again, if you're a fan of point-and-click adventures, you may already be familiar with this. Old Skies is, at least, free of pixel hunting, allowing players to highlight points of interest with ease. Much appreciated. My biggest issue with the gameplay is how frequently Old Skies bounces players back and forth. It's great for keeping the pace, but it can get tiresome to constantly travel between 2 or 3 locations in a short time span. Once more locations open up though, this becomes less noticeable. The dynamic nature of certain locations also helps, and in addition, short conversations between Fear and the client provide some variety while traveling between them. The real draw of Old Skies though is its narrative. As mentioned, players take on the role of Fear, a field agent for Chronozen, a time-traveling company that charges the big bucks in exchange for providing nostalgic trips for rich folks. There's nowhere they can't take you if you're loaded, and it's Fear's job to provide guidance, get them where they need to go, see what they want to see, and stop them from doing anything stupid on the way. Unfortunately, that's not always possible, and players are left to deal with the consequences. In other situations, getting the client what they want simply isn't as easy as it seems. Instead, hoops must be jumped through, checks must be cashed, history must be changed. Providing Chronozen hasn't deemed it too important, that is. Regardless, players will guide Fear through multiple locations at different time periods, serving different clients and solving different mysteries. It's always accessible, at times puzzling, and mostly engaging. What really makes this work though is how successfully Old Skies uses its time travel setting. The developers have clearly squeezed as much as they can from the high concept, and it's not just window dressing. These stories only work because of the time travel, and all the flourishes within each chapter work to remind players of this fact. As mentioned, Old Skies is chapter-based, and although there are consistencies, they are separate and seemingly unconnected stories. That said, you do get to know these characters better as the game progresses, more specifically the protagonist, Fia, and her two best work buds, Nozzo and Duffy. Both are well-crafted, likeable characters, written with a human touch. Nozzo is a particular favourite as the guy in the chair who almost always has the answers. Hint hint. He's the hint provider. There are also small bouts of interaction with these characters between chapters, offering a little palate cleanse before delving into the next adventure. I don't want to speak all too much on the specifics of the chapters. This is a story-driven experience after all, but I will say that each chapter I've played has been unique from the last, each offering new insights into the core characters, more opportunities for world building, and intriguing mysteries to solve. Be it uncovering the tragic life of a doomed boxer, or investigating an unsigned artwork, Old Skies is creative in its storytelling, clearly striving to provide fresh flavors with each chapter. The personalities and motivations of each client are also a joy to uncover. It's a testament to the game's writing that I often cared about both the mission at hand and the client themselves. From the opening notes of its main theme to the occasional background tune, Old Skies excels with its soundtrack. The blend of strings, synths, and brass results in a painfully nostalgic sound that somehow manages to convey the game's futuristic tone. Again, the more era-appropriate background tunes are particularly flavorful, such as the plonking pianos present in the 1920s or the buoyant tinkering of ivories outside an 1800s bar. Sound is excellent all around, offering an immersive ambience that rarely distracts while helping to set the tone. The sound design, and music for that matter, also helps to make each era all the more distinct. The voice acting is a particular standout. Almost every character has a unique personality and their own distinctive phrasing, a testament to the writing to be sure, but the ensemble of talent does a superb job of bringing these characters to life. Again, Nozzo is a personal favourite with his boyish charm and professional tone, and Fia speaks with both heart and knowing, a performance that breathes life into a less immediately interesting character. Even the background and supporting cast are excellent, with Fia's first client in the game, Joe Anderson, offering up a particularly aching performance. The naive boxer Brian Mason also clearly understands his character well, providing another memorable act. One of Old Sky's greatest strengths is also its visual style, offering a blend of nostalgic backgrounds and unique character visuals. Best of all, the game's ever-changing setting and accompanying imagery provide myriad locales, diverse characters, and unique landmarks that help keep things consistently fresh. There's nothing for a palate cleanse like zipping from the 1800s to the 1920s before popping back to the present for a brief drink at a futuristic bar. Each background is wonderfully painted, both clear and stylistic, classic and yet modern. The highlighting present in most of these backgrounds can be particularly striking. This is especially so at night, where carefully penned neon allows for a certain pop, bringing a bit of dimension to otherwise flat environments. Old Skies performed well for me, which is no surprise given that it's a point-and-click adventure with a classic art style, though, as mentioned, its characters are rendered in a unique and stylish way. I experienced no crashes, bugs, or otherwise, except for one rare issue where speech bubbles disappeared before the character stopped speaking. I'd imagine that turning off auto advance in the options stops this, which might be worth doing if you're hard of hearing. My only issue with the controls is that it's easy to accidentally skip dialogue and cutscenes, as this is mapped to both the left and right mouse buttons. As far as I can tell, there's no way to change this. It's a nitpick at most, but quite frustrating if you're prone to misclicks. Old Skies isn't just great for fans of point-and-click adventures looking to travel back to their own past. It's a well-written piece of science fiction that barrels along at a steady clip. It's supported by human characters brought to life with talented performances and elevated by stylish visuals and an affecting soundtrack. All this friendly to newcomers and veterans of the genre alike. Somewhat simple but often innovative puzzles provide a solid foundation for the story to unfold, but sometimes these can be too simple. Also, the occasional act of misdirection can be more frustrating than fun at times. Exploration can also get repetitive, though even this is seasoned with character dialogue and occasionally dynamic locations. Here at I Dream of Indie Games, we believe that games are so much more than a number. That's why we have our 3 Genie lamp tier system. A bronze lamp represents a good game with quite a few issues. A silver lamp is for a great game with just a few small issues, and the elusive golden Genie lamp of approval is for those essential releases you can't afford to miss. We also have the rusty lantern for titles of fair quality. These titles aren't broken but not fully recommended. There's also the dreaded Indie Krampus, reserved for the games you should avoid. Old Skies is a well-rounded point-and-click adventure that offers a polished, fast-paced experience perfect for fans of science fiction and, more specifically, time travel. Gameplay may be minimal, even repetitive, and at times frustrating, but frequent injections of innovation keep it from becoming dull. Best of all, Old Skies offers emotional, human stories wrapped in mystery and presented with both humor and wit. It easily earns itself a silver lamp of approval.
If you hate the painting so much, why is it still here?
The old owner said his kid wants it, but they haven't picked it up yet. They'd better hurry up. I want to chuck it into the street.
For far too long, you, the gamer, have been denied honest gaming coverage. Indie developers and publishers have lost their voice, but no longer. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames to join this epic campaign for indie visibility. The echo chamber trembles as our message grows louder. Voice to the voiceless!